I made 2 times exactly the same dough. And I want to know what works best. Baking the bread at a higher temperature at the start versus a constant temperature all the time. I'm very curious to see which one is going to have more oven spring. Now for this experiment, I figured again I should ask you, and almost 700 people voted. Most of you are convinced that a hotter temperature at the start is better. And me personally, I always baked with the same temperature from start to finish. And of course, some of you also pointed out that it's not an easy answer. And you're right, so that's why the deciding factor for this experiment is going to be the oven spring. And this experiment has me really excited because the majority of you is saying something different than I would normally do. So if you're right, then I definitely learned something new. The dough is the same dough that I also used on the previous experiments. It's pretty much my default sourdough recipe. The only difference is that I'm using slightly more water for my flour in this case. This allows me to build a more open crumb as the dough is more elastic. You have to be a little bit careful, not every flour supports this. You want to have a flour that has a high protein percentage. I like to mix everything together and do an overnight autolyse. This really helps with building strength simply by waiting. At the same time, I'm feeding my sourdough starter in the evening using a 1:5:5 ratio, and then the next day I opt for 20% based on the flour in terms of sourdough starter. That's roughly 160 grams. Then I proceed and extract a small, existing subscribers will know, then I proceed and extract a small dough sample. This really makes it very easy for me to always ferment exactly on time. Once this doubled, roughly after 12 hours, I proceed with the next step. I preheated my oven for around 30 minutes to the maximum temperature, and dough number 1 is going to be baked at a steady 230 degrees Celsius. And yeah, that's typically what I'm going to do, and I'm really curious to see whether this other technique is going to make me a better bread. See for yourself. Quick temperature check, roughly 260 degrees Celsius here on this Dutch oven. Halftime, 25 minutes passed, and this is always the moment that I'm either super happy about or I'm very scared about, because you never know what's hiding inside of your Dutch oven. So let's have a look. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3. Nice. Look at this beautiful sourdough bread right here. Probably could have improved the shaping a little bit, but I'm very happy with how this looks. This is now going to go into the oven for another 20 minutes. And incoming, bread number 1. Looking very beautiful. I probably could have scored it a little bit better here. This ear at this area did not open up as much as I wanted to. But also look at this here, beautiful blisters. Great looking bread. Let's do the next one. Second loaf, half time. Did it get oven spring? 1, 2, oh, I'm so excited. 3. That's a cute little bread. But one thing that's for sure, I screwed up a little bit in terms of the portions of the breads. But we're gonna normalize that in the end, so nothing to worry. Based on the color, I would say this probably has another 10 minutes roughly in the oven. See you in a bit. Now, who's the winner? The two breads next to each other. And one thing is for sure, I failed a little bit when dividing. This one is definitely a little bit larger than this one. I'm just going to be weighing both of them so that I have a fair comparison and I can normalize the height of both of the breads. Did you see that? That's 666. This bread is from Hill. And the other one 541. Okay. I need to try this one more time. Interesting. Now it's showing slightly less. Let's have a look at the crumbs. I'm starting with the one which I baked at constant temperature. Beautiful, delicious crumb right here. Looking perfect. Nice bunny shape as well. And the one with a higher temperature at the start and then lower temperature towards the end. Also great looking crumb right here. Both of them next to each other. One thing to know on this left hand bread here, I didn't pre-shape as much as I did on the right hand side. And I think that can be seen because the crumb is a little bit wilder on the left hand side. I try to be as exact as possible, but sometimes when pre-shaping, it's very hard to pre-shape exactly the same amount. So the height at the one whole time same temperature, around 7.2 centimeters. The one which was in the hotter is also 7.2 centimeters in height. And yes, I mean, now you can see it, right? So if I hold it like this, then you can see that it's, in terms of height, it's almost the same. It's just this one here, the one which baked at the same temperature all the time, is flatter than the one which baked at a higher temperature at the start. So now if my math is correct, please correct me if I'm wrong, then the large one weighs around 23% more. And so I should be giving the smaller one, the one which I baked at higher temperature at the start and then lowered the temperature, 23% more in terms of oven spring because it's smaller. And so when I do that, when I normalize the value and have a look again at them next to each other, then it's clear to me that baking at a higher temperature at the start is going to give you more oven spring. That's for sure. So yeah, in terms of oven spring, based on this experiment, I need to try this one more time, of course, where I have exactly the same dough weight. But as far as I can see here, the one which baked at a hotter Dutch oven right at the start won. But that's just one part of the whole experiment. I'm wondering about the taste as well. They just look beautiful. One thing that I can instantly see here on the slightly smaller one, that's the one which I baked at a higher temperature to start, that you have more crust from the bottom. Now, if you have issues with too much crust from the bottom, this might not be such a good idea. Here, I do have some crust, but definitely not as much as this one. So if you like that crispiness paired with a really soft crumb, then this one is probably going to taste better. Let me just try tasting the bottom part of the bread. The consistency is just perfect. Crispy crust paired with this a little bit chewy crumb, still wet crumb, slight sour. This one has the perfect consistency in my opinion. Let's try the next one, the one which I baked at the same temperature all the time. In terms of taste, this one is also amazing. Crumb-wise, they're both great. The only thing you could say is that this one here has a better crust from the bottom. And that's true. This one doesn't have as much crust from the bottom. And that's why, me personally, I prefer the right-hand version. So I really learned something new here, because normally I always baked my bread like this. But now after this experiment, I definitely can say that this one I like more in terms of crispiness of the crust, and then also in terms of oven spring. So from now on, I'm going to be changing my method or how to bake. And I've only been baking like this for the past few years. So this is quite a big of a change, but this is for the better. So great experiment. I learned something new, and I hope you also learned something new. I would be curious to know from your side what I could have improved on the experiment. Maybe just the pre-shaping aspect of it. Should I have weighted the dough? When I weigh the dough on the scale, then of course I also even out the crumb a little bit more. That's why I didn't want to do it initially. But maybe that would have been a better approach. If you have ideas for future experiments that I should conduct, please do drop a comment on the video. I would be very curious to see what crazy ideas you come up with. Hope you enjoyed this video, hope you had fun, hope you learned something new, and as always, may the gluten be with you.